In this episode of True Tales, we are going to ask the question, is it psychic or schizophrenia? I wanted to share this story as the second episode of True Tales because it is a really good question. When I share stories on the internet, people immediately comment sometimes, oh, that's schizophrenia. I have a feeling that people who have schizophrenia probably would not make that types of conclusion. Now, there are many theories and reasons for why someone would want to make the equation that psychic or intuitive phenomena and abilities is schizophrenia. And I'm open to that exploration. I'm not here to say either way any kind of opinion on that matter. I do not have enough education to make a definitive statement. But I can share my story of talking to a psychiatrist about my own exploration of differentiating between psychic phenomena and schizophrenia. So I have had psychic and intuitive experiences my entire life since I was born. But the power of these abilities started to come to life and come through me physically after the birth of my second child. I already had them with my daughter, especially after the postpartum depression period, which I have many stories from that time. But I wanted to hone in on a very specific experience that I had with a psychiatrist who is specialized in these types of disorders and phenomena. So after my son was born, everything was fine. Like it was like karmic destiny. And then a few months after, when my husband started to travel to China for work, I started having really bad panic attacks. And I was starting to have more and more psychic experiences. I could see things and hear things and feel things with my eyes in regular waking life, not just dreams, but I was starting to experience them. And of course, the very first question you have to ask yourself is, am I dealing with a medical condition? Do I have some kind of psychological issue or a health issue that would have me experience this type of phenomena? So I went to a psychiatrist and started to talk to her about my experiences. And she interviewed me, and we had lots of sessions. And after a particular session, I started to realize, okay, I'm having some kind of issue and I need to tell her what I'm seeing. So I go back and I tell her what I'm experiencing, these feelings. And she says, okay, well, can you tell me what you're experiencing right now? Do you see anything right now? So I look at her. She's sitting across from me, as I am across from you, in a chair. And there is a couple of windows behind her, and I can see a glimmering cloud of light right next to her head. And I look at this glimmering cloud of light, and I feel from this information. And I say to her, there is a glimmering light next to your head. It feels like father energy for me. And what it is telling me is that you are hesitating about getting married, but he wants you to know that you have his blessing and you can go ahead. She just looks at me and she says, that is pretty interesting that you say that, because my boyfriend proposed to me and I have not said yes yet. I'm still thinking about it. And I said to her, well, he's telling me that you should go ahead and you have his blessing and he has his blessing. And she looks at me and she smiles and she says, I do not think you have schizophrenia. I think you are having a spiritual awakening. You need to see a woman I know who is a shaman, and who's connected to a psychologist I know who really does focus on these types of things. This psychologist who I went to go see was or is married to a former professional female snowboarder. And I went to go see her, and I started having these opportunities to explain to her my experience. And so after a certain session, she then invited the shaman and they began to do rituals on me. And during the most powerful ritual, I was taken back to these vivid memories of me being a prehistoric person in the Dolomites, in the caves in northern Italy, and I'm dying from a what I would think is a bacterial infection from a cat scratch, and I am freaking out and having panic that I'm going to die and leave my child. And it's the same feeling that I'm having when my husband goes out of town and I'm having panic attacks with being alone left with my children. And after this experience of having that shamanistic experience and realizing that I'm having past life experiences that are coming through, I healed that memory and I no longer had the panic attacks when I was left alone with my children when he was traveling. So that was my experience going to medical health professionals who really were open minded. Now, again, this is in Southern California. I'll rewind to the first time I started to really explore this medically in France. And the doctors, I'm having like colitis and I'm having all sorts of issues and I'm having visions and I'm having dreams and I'm seeing things and I really do feel like I'm crazy. And very naturally so, you would want to ask yourself, do you have some kind of mental illness? Because I do have in my family with behavioral disorders, sociopathic personality, like you want to check yourself, if you've got in your family, you want to be very vigilant about your mental health. And I went to the doctors and they just couldn't help me. I had every scan you could possibly imagine here in France because it's part of the healthcare system. I had CT scans, MRI, X-rays. I had all the stuff. And there was not one medical reason why they could explain I was having visions, I was having dreams, I was having visitations from people who had died. None of them could explain it. But I did have postpartum depression. That was a medical issue. I was exhausted from having my daughter. I could not sleep for months before she was born. She was a big baby. She was spread out in me. I couldn't sleep. I had edema. I was close to being pre-diabetic. And I did have physical health issues. And after my daughter was born, I did have to go on medication and get sleep and get therapy and get counseling. So I had to balance the physical health side and my hormones and get sleep and physically deal with the fatigue and the postpartum depression. But I also had to psychically deal with everything that was coming through on that side. So it was a two-fold approach to my mental health. So when people come to me and they're having psychic issues, of course they're going to have physical health issues. They're going to have panic attacks. They're going to have nervousness. They're not going to be able to eat. These things are tied. And of course, when you are living your life, you have to live a physical life. You have to eat well. If you have to take medication, you have to take medication. You have to sleep. You have to put yourself in relaxing environments and you have to make healthy choices. And at the same time, it is worth exploring the spiritual aspects of yourself, your soul, your subconscious mind, traumatic memories, experiences, and your connection to others in your life. So I was very fortunate to have an amazing psychiatrist who helped me go in the right direction to understand myself. She said, of course, I can prescribe you medication, and I was on medication for a little while for the panic attacks. But after I started to take training for psychology, energy psychology, hypnosis, cognitive behavioral therapy, and tapping, and doing modalities to help me break through my emotions, and also get mentoring from other psychic mediums and energy healers, I began to channel the awareness and the energy that I was feeling from within myself and use it in a constructive way. So I think if it is a health issue, from my point of view only, it is a physical manifestation. You need to take care of your health. There's really no way around it. You can't spiritual bypass not being able to eat or sleep or not feeling great. You have to do the work. And at the same time, you have to be open-minded to explore those aspects of your experience that are more fine, that are more psychological, and go on that journey and be open to that journey. And it is very important when you are going on this journey to surround yourself with individuals who are open-minded, who are experienced, and who have a grounded perspective of your experience. I think from my experience, science, medical is just as important as the shamanistic, the spiritual, the symbolic, psychic component of your life. You are living in a three-dimensional world. You live in a human body. You have to take it from a multi-dimensional approach. So that is my story of the question, is it psychic or schizophrenia? I feel that psychic ability, if I may summarize this, is something that can help you make sense of things. I think if there is schizophrenia, it does not make sense of things. It is convoluted. It confuses you. It overwhelms you. So that's my experience. I cannot say from my point of view any kind of other diagnosis or label. I only speak from my experience, and everyone must learn from and speak from their own experience and try not to make generalizations that would be damaging and hurtful to other people on their journey. So I say this with the scientific mind, that if you can go on this journey to understand yourself and take care of yourself and live a healthy life, your psychic abilities will grow and they will help you produce positive results. If it's mental illness, it will produce destructive results. So that's my way of knowing the difference. So thanks for joining me on this episode of True Tales. I'm Leslie Juvin-Acker.